I guess, Paul, I'll put you on the spot a little bit. What kind of name would you have given Corona during this COVID-19?
Yes. I think the best play to go there off the top of my head is to actually leave it blank.
Oh, I love that.
Like this
That's
label, it just
smart.
says extra. Like
I love
we've
that.
eliminated Corona, right?
Oh, my
Like that's
goodness. That's awesome, Paul.
welcome to another episode of Brews and BizDev. Today, our illustrious guest is Mr. Anthony Desimone. And Anthony, let's just hop right into it here. So I'm going to have you. We'll wait on the beers for a quick second while you go ahead and deliver your elevator pitch. Tell us who you are, what you do, what business you're in.
My name is Anthony Desimone. You can call me Tony. And my background, I'm a CPA, and I have worked in many small businesses. I started out that way after realizing when I started out of school as a CPA, I realized that I hated auditing, which is where I started at Deloitte. But I loved the small businesses that I was working in. And so I quickly moved over there, and I learned a lot from those small businesses. Many of them were hiring me because they were struggling. So I became somewhat of a turnaround specialist, and it just helped me sharpen the tools for forecasting cash flow, forecasting budgets and things like that, helping teach the employees who did not have accounting backgrounds how to read their financial statements and use them to improve their profitability and cash flow. And eventually that turned into a consulting business. My business is called You're the Expert Now, with the idea that I help business owners, I help executives, employees to learn how to read their financial statements so that they can use them to improve the operations, to improve profitability, to make them the expert of their business on the number side.
Nice. Very cool. And how long have you had your practice running for now?
Oh my goodness. Full-time consulting has been about 5.5 years now.
Cool.
Part-time, probably somewhere over 10, 12 years.
Yeah. Nice.
Yeah.
So you've seen a good mix by now of
yes.
different scenarios.
Yes. It's great. I consider myself a practitioner. I am out there. You name the industry, you name the issue. I've seen it. And that's what I love about the business that I'm in, is I get the opportunity to experience so much. And then you throw on that, I'm an adjunct professor at UB. I work directly with the CEL, the Center for Entrepreneurial Leadership, which is basically a mini MBA for business owners. And that even gives me a lot more exposure to a lot more issues that I can help diagnose and solve.
Nice. Yeah, no, that's a very cool, and yeah, the CEL is a great place to be. Great network operating through there for sure. And yeah, what better place for you to be? Because I know that that's a lot of what people are struggling with when they come through there is getting a handle on the numbers. What are they? What should they be? What should I even be looking at? And I've heard that's a big benefit coming out of the program, and I hear that you usually have something to do with that.
It is a great program, and there are so many incredible people there. Not only the specialists in any area. You have any issue of any kind in any part of your business, there is a specialist at the Center for Entrepreneurial Leadership that can help you or get you to fix it faster. And then on top of that, you bring in the whole class each time there's a new class. And they bond, and now you have basically a mastermind group of other like-minded business owners that can help you out too. It's fantastic.
Mm-hmm. Nice. And do you have a podcast as well?
I do. Yes. It's called the Healthy Business Podcast, and I changed the format. Originally, I guess I started the podcast back in 2014, and I was doing perhaps one a month, I guess would be the average. And it was just me with my thoughts. And that took a lot of time because I put a lot of effort into what I was saying. And during COVID-19, during the quarantine, I realized that it accelerated an opportunity of having guests because everybody was on Zoom. This was a lot easier.
Yep.
And so I went to a interview guest format because a lot of the businesses were struggling. I mean, they still are. And I thought if I can get more business owners out there so that people are aware of their business as well as what they're doing, how they're doing it, I could help out a lot more businesses that way.
Yeah, no doubt. And I know, and we want to jump into some of that conversation as well, the COVID, the how people are adapting or not, right? And then what we think there is to do. But before we get into that, let's get into the real important stuff.
Yes.
So as is our ritual, the guest gets to choose the brew for the episode. So tell me, what have you chosen to feature? And then let's crack them open, right?
Yeah, that sounds good. Okay, so I have Corona beer.
Okay.
And I also have a Jenny cream ale.
Oh man, yes, the double fisting.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
I'm double fisting. And I had to go with Corona for one reason and one reason only, considering that this is, you're a marketing guy. And I thought that Corona, this is sort of an homage for Corona beer because they had an opportunity, a marketing opportunity of a lifetime, and they screwed it up. The name of the beer is Corona. All you had to do was to say, you know what, during the COVID crisis, we are going to change our beer's name from Corona to, I don't care. It could be anything, and that's worldwide attention.
Yeah.
Free.
Yes.
Are you kidding me?
That's good.
How did they miss that, Paul?
I don't know. I don't know how. I'm sure fear is my guess, an abject terror about doing anything that further associates them. But I'll tell you something funny here. Yeah, let's crack this open.
Nice. I got some lime here too. You want a lime?
Oh yeah. You're passing. But I'll tell you something as you're setting that up. Funnily, with the COVID situation, early on, before we were kind of in New York here at full shutdown, certainly when we still had some people in the office, I was over at the Vidwheel offices, and then a few of us went out to lunch. And on Allen Street, right, there's Don Tequila, great, cheap Mexican kind of a place, cheap American Mexican Tex-Mex place. And they had all this prep set up for, it was heading into St. Patrick's Day, right? And then, of course, the parade, they technically shut down, but they had already put up all these decorations, and Don Tequila and Corona clearly had provided some of them. So while we're in the early throes of what's going to happen with coronavirus, they just had thing after thing, like the little things hanging and streaming from one wall to the other, just saying Corona over and over again. Their entire restaurant was decked out with the word Corona. And I thought, somebody missed a memo here too. I know, even if you don't have other decorations, please take those down. We're having a conversation about how the parade's going to be canceled, and we're sitting in a restaurant surrounded by the word Corona everywhere we look. I mean, that's a miss, but small business, you get more of those misses like that.
Yes.
If that's the most of their problems, then that'd be great. But I'm pretty sure they've got a few other ones.
What think about, I'm somewhat of a history buff, and during World War II, there was a cigarette company called Lucky Strike, and they had a red circle, on their label. And during the war, they decided to make it green, camouflage, color essentially, so that it just make sure that there's no red on any of the soldiers. So.
Especially just a red circle. That's a bad look. Yeah.
Yeah. But I mean, think about it. That got so much, that was something that people still talk about. And I think Corona could have done the same thing. And I guess, Paul, I'll put you on the spot a little bit. What kind of name would you have given Corona during this COVID-19?
Yes. I think the best play to go there off the top of my head is to actually leave it blank.
Oh, I love that.
Like this label,
That's
it just
smart.
says extra. Like
I love
we've
that.
eliminated Corona, right?
Oh my
Like that's
goodness. That's awesome, Paul.
like,
That's
like
awesome.
Trump was right. It just disappeared. So there's my.
Oh my goodness. Yeah,
And
I
hey,
love it.
I mean,
Just
they
leave
still
it
could
blank.
have 6 months to a year to implement this, right? I mean, we should send this to Corona because they still got some time. There's a few months left before this is not a story anymore for sure.
That's true.
But yeah,
That's
I would
true.
go with the we eliminated Corona as a joke. But again, that's a delicate, it's a delicate area. The one thing about marketing is it was true with video. It's true with all, like, humor can be incredible, of course, right? If you can get people laughing and entertained in that way, you have a great association in that brain, and it can go really, really bad. Just like it can as just a regular person, right? You make the wrong joke at the wrong time, and it's not going to go well. You do that as a brand, and then it sticks with you. So, yes, I think it would be in one way amazing that there was no Corona there. Of course, the cost of doing all the packaging and all that kind of stuff would be immense. But then I'm sure the immediate thing is, like, you do not want to make fun of something that is killing people.
Right. No, I
So
do like the idea. Just leaving it blank.
yeah, yeah.
That is smart.
Yeah, and then try not to make too light of it, which,
Right.
the rest of my comments were going a bit far. But yeah, I think that would be good. Well, and let's jump into the dealing with the actual business impacts of Corona. So you're out there, you've got your client base, you've got the folks involved in the CEL, you've got the folks coming on your podcast, right? So you have all these kind of different lines of sight into businesses, into what's happening for them, given the circumstances, as well as what their strategies are for moving forward, and like what you recommend to people and what you're seeing. So what are you seeing? I mean, we're currently, as we record this, we're 4-ish months, 5 months, into the full-blown swing of it here in the US. So it's not a new thing anymore, but what are you seeing right now in businesses? How are people adapting? Like, what's it like on the inside?
Yeah. Yeah. You know what? Right now, because of all the government money that's been flowing, the free money,
Mm-hmm.
we haven't really experienced the recession yet. That's really, I think, what a lot of businesses are seeing today, other than, say, restaurants or something like that, or businesses that deal with conventions or things like that, where they're really struggling. We can get back to that, but just your standard company like construction or something like that, they haven't seen the real effects of the recession. In fact, many of my clients are either around the same as they were last year. Right now, the sales. Some are actually doing better. Some are slightly less, but it's pretty close to last year. And their backlog, what they're seeing is that they have enough backlog for probably the rest of the third quarter and some into the fourth quarter. What happened for some, if they were essential, this is sort of this is a have and have nots type of situation. The ones that were essential really were not all that affected. And the interesting thing is that when you got the PPP, a lot of these businesses that were essential, not only making money still because their business really wasn't that affected because they already had the backlog, they were already working on the jobs. So the PPP was just like icing on the cake. It was just added profit to their business. The non-essentials, obviously, they were shut down, but the PPP was problematic because they had no employees to use it against. So they were struggling at first until they made the adjustments to the PPP so that they can extend the time frame. And now that a lot of these non-essentials are open, they can actually use it properly. But for a lot of businesses, that PPP became added profit, at least for now. What these businesses are seeing today, it seems, is that they're good through the third quarter. as the quarantine let up, as the quarantine ended, a lot of the business just started flowing back in, from the couple of months where the business backlog occurred. Mm-hmm. And they're now seeing that the first quarter is looking pretty bleak for many of these businesses. And what I see is that there's certain cracks in the armor in different areas that eventually I think will affect everybody. It's sort of like a ripple effect or something like that. It's first, because the CARES Act is expired, and that extra $600 is now done. And right now they're still working on the HEALS Act. I'm assuming there will be a follow-up, program, like the HEALS program is what they're calling it. But it's not going to be as generous as the CARES Act. People are not going to get the $600. What I'm hearing is that maybe they'll get $200, the ones that are unemployed. The problem with the $600 was that it made it virtually impossible for business owners to compete with that. Your average person on unemployment was essentially making the equivalent of $52,000 a year. And if you're trying to hire somebody at minimum wage, forget about it. They're not gonna take that. So the CARES Act, now that it's over, is helping small businesses there. But now that that's done, there's a lot of people who have stated there's about 49% of Americans who claim that they will be living paycheck to paycheck in 2020. Mm-hmm. That's a lot of Americans. And also, they, during this same CARES Act, when it expired, they lifted the evictions. Mm-hmm. They lifted the evictions notice so that you can now, as a landlord, evict your tenant. And they say that 40% of renters are at risk of eviction. So, there's some things going on the edge there that I hear. And then, I have a client I was just talking to today who does a lot of work with Dasney in construction. They're the state of New York construction group that works with a lot of the universities and working on the buildings on universities. Mm-hmm. Anything that's in design stage has been basically frozen. It's not happening anymore. Mm-hmm. So all of a sudden you're starting to see these states who are now going to be struggling because they just don't have the money that they used to have because their budgets have been blown out by COVID, absolutely destroyed by COVID. And there's going to be some major deficits there, which means that the money won't be able to flow the way it used to, and that's going to make that's going to be a major effect on many businesses. And I believe that we're really going to see the true recession in 2021.
Yeah, that makes sense. And what do you think? Now, I saw something, feels like a couple of weeks ago now, and either it was like we were messaging or possibly it was just something of yours that I saw on LinkedIn or something where from the BizDev side, right? So from, businesses who are not, like, obviously they're not the state. And if you're not, like, if your big client isn't state funding, what's the BizDev answer? And I believe you would put out something about, which I had said months ago, hey, maybe new business is not the hot area, right? Like, you're looking for cold traffic and new business, there's a different place you can focus called the people you're already engaged with, your current customers, right? So Talk to me a little bit about that idea and what the benefit is, and maybe if you've seen some people successfully doing that, which is what we really like to share, right? Like an active tip, and like, here's what some folks are doing, like, what, how can we be focusing on what we have and trying to grow that versus like we're going to get a whole bunch of new contracts because people are just dying to spend money these days, right? Like, so what's your take on that?
Yeah, it's much easier to get business from your current customer. I'm sure, Paul, as you know more than anybody, but it's much easier to get business from your current customer than from a new customer. It's almost virtually impossible to get new customers right now, because the problem is with this whole quarantine thing and everything, and even with quarantine ended, you don't know. There's a lot of businesses that are not allowing visitors in their facility, period. So if you're trying to get into a new place, first of all, they're not going to let you in many of these cases. And secondly, if you're trying to find the person that does the purchasing, they may be at home. They may be, it's hard to corral people. I mean, you can't even get a hold of people. So more so than ever, it's important to be selling to your current customers, and more so than ever, it's important to be servicing your current customers like never before, because you can't afford to lose them.
Yeah. That's the last thing you need is attrition, right? At this point, taking out your base, and we're certainly, yes, we're aware of that. We're big fans of the theory. We've got a renown. We're positioned as a customer success agency, and that's for a number of reasons. One of which is like, that's always where you want to start. Unless you're a startup, unless you have no customer base, like there's always value in the people you're already connected with, the people you've already served, and outside of the stats where, someone who's already bought anything from you at any level is, 23 times more likely than someone else to buy something from you again. So that's always been the case. But especially now, right, where like those prospects are gone or highly diminished, unless, of course, someone has a real need and you get referrals, which also comes from serving your customers well, right? So building up your tech, your approach, your even the good old fashioned, just jump on the phone and being reaching out, like connect with people.
Yes.
If you're already engaged with, make sure they're okay, see what else you can provide them, generate extra value. And then there's a slight chance out of that, even now, that then that gets business because it's directly referred, which we all know is the best incoming business opportunities are the referred by people that trust you and that you trust. Yes. And you can generate those, right, by focusing on taking care of the people that you're already engaged with, not to mention the people that you have been in the past even, right? Current customer, if they're on your list, reach out. How can you help? And not from a sales pitchy, thinly veiled attempt at like, hey, I really want to help. How can I help you with any of my paid products? But like engage people, serve them at a higher level, figure out where that gap is, and then go all in on that, and then maybe generate some new business along the side, the easy kind, right? The kind that comes from trusted referral.
And then go old school. It's a couple of things in today's post-COVID world. What I'm discovering is face-to-face, actual physical. You're next to the person, at least 6 feet distance, right, but you're there. That is more powerful than ever in selling. That is more powerful in just getting together. I facilitate a mastery class. It's basically a mastermind at the Center for Entrepreneurial Leadership, and I had my group. We met today. In fact, I had them. We all met at the park. I said, look, guys, the Zoom is great, but we're all tired of it. And people are craving being around other people. So we met at the park and we had our meeting at the park, and they really enjoyed it because it's not happening, and in that meeting, one of the people in the group, she was telling us that she was at a golf outing, one of the few. I guess it was at Genesee County, and they had their golf outing for one of her business groups, and she said that was the most successful golf outing that they had. Typically, they have like 80. They had more like 140, and she ended up getting 4 or 5 leads from it. So stuff like that used to not be as good of a way to get leads and things like that. But this year it's different. So, the rules have changed. You got to recognize that, and you got to play by the rules as they are today.
Yes. Yeah, no, exactly. Yeah, you got to realize where we're sitting, not to mention where we might be sitting, right? And
Yes.
thinking about now and going forward. And that's actually, no, that's really interesting with the leads at the golf outing, because I had noticed it on a smaller level, right? Certainly the interpersonal level, that people are definitely craving being in the same general space as other humans and seeing faces and all the fun stuff that our brains want to do with recognizing things when people that we can't get out of Zoom. And the conversation is always a little more excited, no matter what kind of dumb small talk that might be happening. Like there's a zeal, there's a zest for like, oh, let's engage. And I have had people tell me that for lower ticket items, let's call it, right? Like my insurance guy. So here's my shout out, Lapiana at Bison Insurance, was telling me, he also, just for fun on the side, will sell things on Facebook, right? He does like reclaim things and puts different things together, and then was dropping things off at people's doors and then having these brief interactions and then selling insurance. He's like, and I don't know, he's like, I've never had this, it's never been a rant, like, hey, I'm at your doorstep and you just ask me, what do you do? I sell insurance. Oh, great, let's talk about it. And like, I'm going to buy from you. But when we talked about it, this was a couple of weeks ago, it was like 3 different times this has happened from perchance, encounters, right? And so I thought that makes sense, because people are looking to connect a little more, and they're just so like, let's just keep the conversation going. Oh, what do you have? Let me buy it from you, right? Like, does that mean you're going to sit down and we're going to talk more? Like there's a real like, which I didn't necessarily think would translate. I mean, car insurance is one thing, like I'm already paying it. Maybe you just save me $10 a month, maybe you like whatever. But actual full-on business things, it's the same way, right? You're saying is like, people want to engage, people are having conversations, and if you're there present and having that conversation while people have that kind of charged emotional state going, where it's like, oh my God, people, then that is going to impress in the same way advertising does. Yeah. An association in the brain that is very good for you. Right? I mean, the cliche with the ads is always like, they don't even talk about their product. And it's like, yeah, they're not trying to. They're just trying to have you walk away and have, your brain associate Subaru with love, or, whatever the case is. They're not trying to like pitch you a car that you're going to run out and buy. They just want to, and then you get that because people are charged. We're more open and we want more connection. And so that seems to be lighting people up, so to speak, on an EKG, lighting people up in a way that's, they're making decisions more through those old school in person, and like, yes, if there's a way to do business, let's do business. Yeah. Which, I mean, those are limited opportunities, because not everyone's even bothering with events or in-person things because the logistics is too much to deal with. Right. But I think that's awesome. Like focus on your current customers, deliver more value than you were, find where that gap is, and then see what you can create there. And then, sure, digital, right? If people aren't at the shop, if you need that purchaser, if and they're not in the office anymore, they're working from home, there's only one way you can reach those folks anymore, unless you've got their personal cell, and that is you've got to hit them with marketing coming through the internet.
Right on.
But if you can have a face-to-face conversation, right? Show up where other humans physically are, to whatever degree we can do it, and then engage and take advantage of that. Desperation's a little hard, but that real zeal to just like connect.
Absolutely, and believe me, that'll be remembered. It's it's more powerful than ever right now, than in our lifetime at least, because we're all missing it. And I see it every time I have a meeting where I get people together. It's incredible. People are just missing that right now. You know what? I do want to ask you about how businesses, how I'm seeing a lot of business owners now, because of the fact that it's harder to find new customers. They're all finding religion when it comes to social media and all this stuff. And I want to have it. I'd love to know what Renown Creative is what kind of advice you give to the small businesses. I do want to know though, you tell me when you want me to talk about the Jenny's Cream Ale.
Yeah, cool. Well, yeah, well, we'll hit the social. We'll hit the social, and then we'll hit the cream ale.
All right, very good. So, just to give you a little more color on that, is that I have so many business owners who now, we're all seeing it. I'm sure you see it as much as me with Zoom making it now so easy. I think there's a lot of people who didn't realize how easy this was to create, basically podcasts, video podcasts, or something like that. So now there's more noise than ever. And now a lot of these business owners who are struggling to get any kind of a backlog are deciding, I'm going to jump on board. I want to get involved with social media. I'm going to create this content. We're going to, we're just going all out with the expectation that they think it's going to return sometime quickly. Right. What kind of advice do you give small business owners who have that mindset, and what are some of the steps that you're telling them to take?
Yeah. It's a good question. And some of it hasn't changed, right? Like with many areas, like some rules have stayed the same. Nobody was following them before, so maybe you start following them now. But number one, it is noisier. And so what you see in the data, whether it's social or even things like, SEM and Google ads and like even those kinds of online things, there are more people online for sure, obviously, more of the time. And there is more content being produced, more stuff coming out, so it's more cluttered, but there's certainly not more end activity, right? There's not more conversions. There's not more people, again, we've talked about it this whole time, people are not pulling the trigger on stuff now. We're not even the recession part, but the fear is enough for most people to not pull the trigger on buying something. And if, depending on what your funnel is set up like, if you've got, for example, like I know someone who's in the coaching realm and then there's certain video ads going out and things like that. The traction on the ads and on the video content is great. Like the amount of like watching the whole thing all the way through, clicking through the next thing, like better than we've ever seen. And then, it'll be like little to nothing on the like, cool, do I want to sign up for a call? Now that's because everyone knows what that is, right? Everyone knows that for a coach or a consultant or whatever, the signing up for the strategy call or the whatever, that part of that is going to be some kind of a sales conversation or an opportunity conversation. And people, so they're not going to take that final, I'm not going to buy something from you unless you happen to catch someone in that actual moment of need, right? Where some trigger event just happened. So the expectation that you're going to jump into social and it's going to like then turn around into ROI next week, right? To be is a poor one to have. Like that's a recipe for disappointment for sure. And that's why most people have always failed to do it in any meaningful way, because you do, small businesses particularly, there's not much of a plan, not much of a strategy behind it. You start doing some version of it that you think you should do, and then when it doesn't yield even vanity metrics quick enough, right? If it doesn't yield likes and reactions and all that kind of stuff, then people kind of drop it, and then they go back to their old school sales activation activities. And what we know, because data shows it and it's still true now, is sales activation, jumping in and doing that thing and, hitting the pavements, like that's going to give you those spikes. That's going to keep you where you are and keep you legit. And in the short term work, maybe not now, maybe not in COVID. But even pre-COVID, long-term, the brand activation, right? The people being familiar with you, that you've created value for them, right? They've seen your podcast, they know you're out there, they've used your information, it's been helpful. They've maybe interacted with you a few times, like that builds up so that when that moment does come, that either the need gets so sharp that they jump into action or something frees up and they can spend money again, whatever it is, you're going to be the resource. That's the play on social. I don't have a recipe for like, here's what you do to generate, to make up your lost revenue next month. What I do is have something put out something so that you are respected and trusted and seen as a resource,
Mm-hmm.
so that whenever that moment arises for your target market, then you're going to be the go-to. And the beauty of it is you don't know when that's going to happen, right? It doesn't, that doesn't mean that it's going to be years from now. It could be,
right?
Or it could be like next week. It could be someone's got a problem and they're sitting there, and then to avoid their problem, they go scrolling through LinkedIn because they can still count it as work. But there's just and then you've got something that pops up and like points right to the issue. You're going to be in a good position there. And social is still the best way to get in front of someone right now. I have noticed information on its own is, again, that's the part that's saturated, right? Everyone's going to come out with very dry how-to. I've never written content before, and now here's my contents. Most of it's not good. So how you stand out is if once you get enough reach where some people are seeing it, like entertainment, there's one reason we're firing up Brews and BizDev right now. There's a different angle on it, right? And something's kind of funny. Providing some kind of entertainment / distraction, given how pressing and depressing the general vibe is around COVID-19 and the recession, the economics. If you can provide some levity, some lightness, some relief, and also some actual applicable business value, whether at the same time or back and forth, you are going to be the people that those people call on when it's time. So if you're not trying to force people into sales that aren't good for them or they're not ready for, which is a terrible approach anyway, but that's not how social has ever worked very well. And right now it's the same strategy. Like start asking, like you and I talked about, taking care of your customers, right? Focus on your customers. Well, then there's your social content. What are your customers dealing with? Like share online about how, oh man, for 5 years, I didn't even realize my customers had this problem. And here's what we're doing about it now. Like that's incredible content for other people who are in the same boat as your customer. So there's no recipe. There's growth hacking. There's all that kind of crap, buying lists of followers. Like those people don't care on those lists. So our approach is the organic build value. Use your tech and your tactics to make sure you're reaching the right people, right? You need a strategy. Most people are not good enough creatively in that way of writing and putting together graphics to start throwing shit together and hope it sticks and hope it works. It's not. But if you know that here's who I'm talking to, and like here's my general messaging, and you just start putting stuff out there and then testing that, knowing at least who you are and then who they are, then you will get there. And a platform like LinkedIn, and of course this is for everybody, but we're in the Buffalo area. Even though saturation's up, there's a lot more people. The numbers have gone down. Then the engagement, the reactions, it takes a little more. I notice my own stuff, same kind of a thing. Those numbers are collectively all down a bit, and that's just everyone being on the platform. Even with that, I have calls every other day where someone's like, oh man, every day if I open up LinkedIn, I see your mug, right? I see like some of them that's a good thing. Some of them are like, please stop.
That's a great thing.
It's a phenomenal thing. And those are not the folks that actually react.
Yeah.
I very rarely hear that from someone who's like a big fan and likes or celebrates everything or comments. I hear that from the people who don't. And so I know if I put out a post and at least 1,000 people are going to lay their eyes on it, and, 10s and 20s and whatever, 40, 50, are going to engage with it somehow, then what better way could I possibly have now of getting in front of somebody? But that is consistency. That is, I can write well enough and construct content well enough to be compelling and relevant. And testing, changing, for months to see what works.
Yes. Yeah.
So
that's interesting. And one of the things that business owners they're already too busy. They don't have time for anything else. So they the moment they hear that they're the ones that need to create content, that's when a lot of them are ready to just, I'm out, that type of,
Yep.
response. What's the easiest way? Because they're the ones who are going to really add the value, because the true content is what they know.
Yeah.
And, what's the easiest way, or what's the way that you can get content from them that keeps it simple, but yet keeps it consistent and keeps it value add?
Well, one thing is, I guess I'll use the term chunking content. So there is something in most businesses, like maybe your website's not great, but you do have one. And maybe, if you didn't go through CEL or something, you don't exactly have all the vision and mission, that kind of stuff like laid out, but there's some version of that stuff somewhere.
Yeah.
And especially now, like, hey, take any kind of long form thing. Now, notwithstanding how well it's written and all that kind of stuff, because it might be bad. And then you find that out by putting the content out there. But the easiest thing is to break down what you already have. Gary Vee is a big superstar in the social media marketing world, and he's a little extra on the generic kind of overgeneralized advice stuff, but that's social media. And, he's got the document, don't worry about creating it, like just document what you do.
Yeah.
Now, again, that's difficult for people who are already up to their eyeballs and overwhelmed in what they're doing. But like, that's where the best stuff comes from. Like, you have a conversation like this, sure, on Zoom. Now we can break out 100 video clips. I can take any one of these quotes and then write it down, and then, put a slightly different spin on it and make that a written post on LinkedIn or on Facebook. I want to put a picture with it on Facebook because Facebook loves graphics. LinkedIn will punish you for everything that's not just a text, for every link, every graphic, every video. So knowing the tricks and tips helps. But, find content in what you're already doing, instead of like thinking you have to like sit down for, 2 hours and write out stuff, let alone plan a calendar for the next 2 months. Like, if you build in as a habit, capturing a little bit of content every day, from customer interactions, right? Internal interactions, stuff you come across, your own marketing stuff you've been sitting on for months, like take a sentence out of that and then put it out there.
Like something like a quote. You're saying just even if it's a few sentences long, that's all you need.
That's what social, especially for social, right? Nobody wants anything long on social. The only people who want long stuff are if they've consumed the small and you lead them up that thing, and like now they're actually so engaged and they so love what you do and what you put out, or it's very relevant to them, that they're going to engage long form. Not far fewer people will watch this whole conversation we're having than will see the short bits and clips and stuff that we put out around it. Like it's just 100%. So if you focus on the small, either take large things and break them down into small chunks and then float those out and see how it goes, or just look for something small and a decent cadence you can manage. You don't need 3 things a day. You don't even need a thing a day, right? There is no real recipe, especially in B2B, for here's what you need to, how much you need to post. I know people who post every day, as like religion for years, at least once a day, because like that's like their own thing. Mm-hmm. And I've seen, and who do well. And then I've seen, people who write well enough and create compelling enough stuff, they can put out like a thing a week and get hundreds of and not fake reactions, not like bot lists or pods and all that kind of crap. Like people who are engaging because it's good. So the main thing is to know who are you talking to, and then what little things are just going to be useful, whether it's hey, this will cheer you up, LinkedIn, we talked about like motivational quotes, all that stuff. Now that's noise. In my world, that's noise. You got to, even if people like it and engage with it, it's noise after a while. Like LinkedIn as a platform does not need any more, motivational quotes over top of nice looking pictures or people rehashing stuff that they heard other people rehash. They heard other, it gets a bit tired unless you're going after a younger crowd who has never heard any of that stuff and thinks it's very profound. For most of us, get way more relevance, and also make sure your base is there. Like this is the other, I guess, obvious part is if your company page on LinkedIn has 25 followers and you've got even, let's go low number, like 500 connections on LinkedIn, get some more people on your company page. You can invite them directly now. Also, put your content out personally first. Nobody's going to see it on your company page, right? So you have to know, like, will people see it at all? And then now, who are those people? And do I want more of them? And what's going to serve them? And then just try stuff. And it's easy to say. It's hard for people to do if they've been resisting it. What I just said is not going to make it like a ton easier. What makes it easier and what gets it done is people realize, to your point, oh, I don't have many options at this point. Like the only way I can get in front of someone who's stuck in their freaking house on the computer is to be on their computer. So start small, take big stuff and make it small. Just give people things that you do every day anyway. You don't have to like be creative with it. And then as you go, if you can learn how to do better copywriting, right? Social media for me, unless it's picture or video based, and even if it's video based, copywriting is the skill. If you're going to spend time brushing up on something, brush up on how to write good copy, and then figure out the rest. Because especially on that platform where text posts do the best, period, and it's not even a secret, if you can write great text posts, you're good.
Yeah.
So know your platform, know your audience, and then just keep trying, man.
Yeah, that's the thing, is that there's the wall of noise, and that's where people just quit. And it really, I find that, there's so many times where I'll put some things out that I think are just absolutely amazing, and I get crickets, and it really makes me want to just stop, but then I'll get that one text or that one email of somebody really thanking me for that. Because it just happened to be the right moment for the right person to read that. And that changes everything.
Yeah.
So, the way I look at it too, is that it doesn't even have to be hundreds of people. Even if you're positively making an effect on one, then you've done your job.
Yeah. Yeah. And the other side of that is, since we're doing it for business reasons, right? So that we are looking for a return at some point. And while those first level metrics are useful, right? Like reach, I want to know my reach. If I'm not reaching anyone, that's a problem. And I'd rather reach 1,000, all other things being equal, than 5. So I want to know what that is. I want to see what my reactions are, but that also could be totally divorced from an actual real solid business result coming through, right? Yeah. You can be posting and get nothing, one like, your grandma's liking something on LinkedIn or something, or for companies like, hey, if we can all see that it's only your employees who are like engaging with your stuff. But if one lead comes through, again, like in my experience, the action doesn't come directly from the people who are like engaging and doing a bunch of that social stuff. That just makes sure that more people see it. For me, the engagement's about getting more reach, which means it's more likely that someone's like, oh shit, like that's what I'm dealing with. Like that person's going to see it. And then yes, one of those people seeing it and then taking action and creating an inquiry or coming at you inbound style is like, who cares what the reactions were? Those are benchmarks to guide the path to relevance. But it's possible to get a great lead without good metrics in front of it. And it's possible to have great metrics for a long time and you don't see anything like a result, because you're creating stuff for engagement versus the kind of stuff that's like, oh, now I'm dealing with your problem. The more targeted my messaging is, the more relevant it is for my targeted customer. Inherently, the less relevant that is for literally everyone else.
Yeah.
Right. So
if you have somebody, a business owner that's really done virtually nothing on social media, what amount of time should they spend on it at least once a week, or the amount of time per week that they should spend on it?
Well, if that's, if it's a committed route of growing the brand and growing the business, then I'd say as a pointer, I'd be looking at 4 or 5 hours a week.
Yeah.
To really engage, to do things like the right way, because there's also not only are you not just posting, but you engage with other people, you provide relevant comment. Like that's how the social thing works, is you actually get social with
That's
it,
a good point.
not just blast. So the
That's a
thing where
good
people
point.
are like, well, I'm willing to spend 10 minutes a day, and then they just spam out crap into the world, is what we're seeing in COVID, right? It's
Yeah.
just people just
Yes.
floating out retreaded crap that nobody cares about. But I'd rather, take less time and put out one good thing, and then spend 2 hours interacting with people in your field, with your customers, like whoever that is. So for me, I don't know if 5 hours a week is a magic number, but honestly, if like it's a deal breaker to go that high, then what you can tell is that you're not committed to it, right? This
Yeah.
thing where
Yeah.
someone says, it's just like, actually, it's like anything. It's like, hey, I'm committed totally to that result. Now, how little time can I spend on it before I do, I can see the results from it? Is like, okay, if you're asking this, we probably have an issue right off the bat, because
Right.
you probably will give up very quickly. I've given up plenty of times with consistent social. Doesn't take much to pick it back up, but it is easy to give up when you get frustrated,
Sure is.
point. So also having someone else, even if it's like that old accountability buddy type thing, right? Like most things that people don't want to do and then just feel like they have to, you're likely to bail pretty quick. So having a structure in place, some form of accountability, so if it was someone taking that on in your mastermind group, it's just like, all right, well, next month we're going to check in on that and see how that's going. Like have something that provides a buffer besides whatever's going on in their head about how it's going. I'd say is crucial, because it's a new habit. You are going to be bad at it at first, because that's how things go. So if you're not willing to put in some time every week, and know that you've got runway for months before you're expecting to see something for real come back from it, then you've got a prospect. But if you needed to work in a month and you've only got an hour a week, then go buy a list or do something else. Like it's probably not going to work.
Yeah. Gotcha. Interesting.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Now we've gotten way off into that, and we have one more story left to tell here, Tony. So let's get into the cream ale.
Jenny Cream Ale. So the last time, I haven't had this since I was a very young child, the Jenny Cream Ale. That was the last time. So we're going back to like 1975. I was 5 years old. And my grandma and grandpa lived 5 houses down on my block. And so as a 5-year-old, I would run over after school to my grandpa was home. His name, Russell Balk. He was a World War II vet, and he didn't work anymore. So he liked to smoke cigars, and he liked to drink Jenny Cream Ale. Now he would have the quarts. He would have a box of quarts, right near the door. And then as that, like if the bottles of the quarts were running low, there'd be another box underneath that. Nice. So he was always drinking his Jenny Cream Ale. So I would go over there, and he would, it would be almost like a ritual. I would go over there, and he would give me this little, it would be a lot smaller glass than this. It was like an orange juice glass, those, they're a little bigger than shot glasses. But he would take some of his Jenny Cream Ale out of his bottle, and he would pour it in my glass. And then if there wasn't enough head on it, he would get some salt, and he would put some salt on there. And he would make some toast and butter the toast.
Wow.
And we would, we would say cheers, and I would have some Jenny Cream Ale and toast with Grandpa.
Wow.
And
nice.
That was, a ritual that we did many, many times. A really nice memory. And I haven't had Jenny Cream Ale since I was probably 7, maybe.
Wow.
Because, when Grandpa passed away, it just, nobody else, who's drinking Jenny Cream Ale? Right. So this is the first time I've had it since then. Oh man. But I'm like having a ratatouille moment here. Do you see that one? Oh my goodness gracious.
Yeah. Are you right in the middle of the flashback now?
This is great. Wow. I when I saw what you're doing, I immediately thought about my grandfather. We'd call him Guy, because my older sister's 2 years older. That's all she could say when she first was younger, when she would see him. So that stuck.
Nice.
And he was just a very calming influence. And I picked up a lot of my coaching approach to the way that he just handled people, because he was just such a calming influence, and he made it look easy when he was dealing with people. And so I got a lot out of that, and he was a very good man. And
Nice.
Jenny Cream Ale and cigars, that was his thing.
Yeah, that's old school right there. Well, here's to Guy.
Here's to Guy. Cheers.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for coming out, Tony. I really appreciate you coming on and, sharing some of what's happening inside of businesses, and hopefully we could create some kind of value for people who are looking for a path forward in an insane time. So definitely appreciate the insights from someone who's, more inside of those operations. It's nice to live on the outside of the marketing and the sales and kind of stuff, but everything has to be rectified inside, right? And those numbers have to line up, and those should be informing what we're sending our sales and marketing people out to do. So I appreciate that insider perspective, and hopefully we'll be seeing each other in some kind of a live event soon enough.
That would be great. And eventually, Paul, I got to get you on my podcast.
Sounds good, man. I'm game.
That sounds great, man. Very good.
Thanks
again.
A lot, Tony.
I appreciate the opportunity. Thank you.
Yeah, my pleasure. Have a good one.
Yeah, you too. Take care.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye-bye.